discussed in the first year, what we're learning here, Amud Tefillah, is a collection of pieces from different svarim. So we finished one piece that was from Tzava Sarivash, it's called. Even though it's not technically it's Tzava, it was collected after his death. Different statements, different sayings that he said, and it was written as a Tzava. But now we're going to the next piece coming from the Keser Shem Tov. He says, B'tfila tzarech lasim kol koiche badiburim. So as we'll see, because it's coming from different pieces in different parts, we're going to be repeating statements in different ways from different angles. And sometimes we're going to be saying the same thing over and over again from different sources. So we're going to try to go in as deep as we can each time. And every time we discuss something, there will be something new to be learned from it. So here he's saying that when we're praying, we have to invest our energy, our koach. What does that mean, the koach? Obviously, we're not talking about the physical koach. It's not about screaming loud. So the koach of a person is the spiritual force that allows him to have power, any type of power, including the physical power. Even when we use physical power, there's something spiritual that we're waking up, and we're putting it at the service of the body, and then the body uses that koach, that power, in order to lift weights or do whatever it wants to do. And so that same koach is what we use to speak, or even to create intention. And so here where he's talking about kol koicha, it means with his full attention, that he shouldn't be focused on anything else. There shouldn't be any distractions. So if there's a distraction while we're davening, so it's not called b'chol koicha. It doesn't mean, it means that he's not using his full power for one thing. When we use our power for one thing, that's when we really can penetrate to the spiritual realms. The spiritual realms require all our concentration, because in the spiritual realms, information is very condensed. It's very much organized in a way that each thing is in its own place. And so when we are trying to create an intention, when we're trying to focus, we're trying to receive something from above, we have to be able to create at a level that's going to have an impact. And that requires focus, that requires attention. Also inside of our bodies, if we want our heart to awaken, if we want any of our organs, if we want emotions to come, we need full attention. The more attention we give, the more the response is going to be complete. The response is going to be real. The response is going to happen live while we're doing the work. And so this is called b'chol koichoi. We also know the statement, Kol oino omen yehesh merabba b'chol koichoi, koirim lo es gizar dinoi. It says even if there was a gezerah for 70 years, from one time answering omen yehesh merabba b'chol koichoi. And so some people try to scream, but that's not the point. The point is that is everything within you agreeing that this is the most important thing for you? Do you really understand why, if the name becomes great, if Yehei Shmei Rabba Mavarach, if this name becomes blessed, if this name becomes great, why is that so beneficial? Why is that so wonderful? Why would you even want that? Why would you even care? So to say Isgadal Yiskada Shmei Rabbo is nice, but if it doesn't have a meaning, there's never going to be B'chol Koicha. It doesn't matter how many faces the person is making while he's saying it, or how loud he's saying it. He's not really there, because he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand whose name do we want to raise, and why is it good that we raise that name, and what does it even mean to raise a name? What does it even mean for a name to become big? So if we want to have B'chol Koicha, it means that every fiber of your being wants that more than anything else. So if somebody was to offer you $1 million, or Yehesh Mei Rabba Mevarach L'Olam, you want Yehesh Mei Rabba Mevarach L'Olam more. That's what it means, B'chol Koicha. It is the simple meaning of it. If you think something else can give you that, so then you can scream, I want $1 million, B'chol Koicha. But that's not what we're looking at. And there's no segula that says that if you scream, I want $1 million, B'chol Koicha, you'll actually get it. But when you say, Yehesh Mei Rabba Mevarach L'Olam, B'chol Koicha, that actually makes a difference, because this is a change that happens in the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm is here to serve. And so the angels are always looking to fulfill what we want. The angels are always fulfilling what we want. It's just that we're giving them the wrong instructions. So every time we're thinking, every time we're desiring, every time we're feeling, we're instructing the angels. If we will instruct the angels, Yizgadal v'Yizgada Shmei Rabo, if that's all we're going to say that this is before everything, then immediately it will happen. First in ourselves, if we can already say Yizgadal v'Yizgada Shmei Rabo and mean it with all of our being, it means that within ourselves, this has already happened. The angels have already realized what we really need and what we really want, and therefore, within us at least, this has become the most important priority. But then, in the whole world, we can create a situation where this spreads in the whole world. And why do we want that? Because this name is what's in charge of human destiny. It's what's in charge of all destiny. And the only reason that humans are in such a conflicted condition is because this name has been mechulal, has been desecrated. And so when this name is desecrated, it means that people no longer respect the human soul. People no longer respect any soul. People no longer respect the spiritual. People no longer know that there's a way to live life that solves all our problems. People start imagining things. People start imagining, if only I had $1 million, it would solve my problems. If only I had whatever, it would solve our problems. And that's simply not the way the world works. It would solve some problems maybe that you're very busy with now, but then will come new problems because the spiritual being is still not organized the way that it's supposed to, and if it's not organized the way that it's supposed to, it cannot work. And so problems are hiding behind problems, or hiding behind other problems, and then there's the one big problem, that if we solve that, we solve all problems. And that's the name. The name, knowing the name, worshiping the name, that's what the religion is all about. That's what any religion is all about, even though they don't even know about a name. Because all of us are naturally worshiping something. This is the way we were designed. And what we naturally worship is the only thing we should be worshiping. We shouldn't be worshiping anything else. And what we're naturally worshiping is that thing inside of us that gives us life. We want to please it. We want to know how to give it a nachas ruach, how to bring it back to full function, how to be completely attached to it. So attached that no matter what we're losing, we don't mind because that attachment keeps us safe. And that includes even losing the body. So while we're losing the body, if the name has been developed enough and we're attached to it enough, while we're losing the body, we're so happy to come closer to the name, we might not even notice that we've lost our body. It might take a few minutes and say, oh, what just happened? Oh, okay, I don't really care that much because I understand the process. I'm attached to something real, and that something real, that's my savior. Nothing else, not what I'm used to, not what I've become accustomed to, not what I'm relying on, but the one that's actually giving me. The one that's actually giving me, he stays. He stays forever. He's never going to leave. Not in this world, not in any other world. If that one leaves, there's nothing. Nothing means absolutely nothing. In no way, shape, or form, there's no one to contemplate the nothingness. And so this is why when we say we have to put our koyach, we have to put ourselves into the words, b'chol koycha, with all his energy, it's not something to be taken lightly. And this is part of the reason why our prayers, unfortunately, don't always have the effect that we would like them to have, is because we're saying things, but we're saying things that are mixed with other things that we wouldn't mind should happen, and maybe today we want this and tomorrow we want something else, or maybe it's something that's not really that meaningful to the soul, and the soul will not wake up when we ask for that. And so all these tefillot are going to have to wait for a time when something more meaningful arises in order for them to have an aliyah, in order for them to get closer to their purpose. And so when we say words, to the extent that our neshama is invested in those words, to that extent and only to that extent are we having an impact spiritually. And when the words are so meaningful that they are all, that there's nothing else, that we have no other place where our soul is now being invested other than these words, that's when the words actually become completely spiritual, and that's when they have the biggest impact. And so he says like this, when you enter into the prayer in this fashion, V'yelech kach mi'os le'os. He goes from one letter to the other letter. Meaning that he's pronouncing letters. And in the ancient world, pronouncing letters was much more meaningful than in today's world. Today we are so used to speaking, we speak so fast, the words come out so quickly, that we can't even pay attention to the individual sounds that we are making. But in the ancient world, how they used to speak, in the beginning of speech, every letter was meaningful. We were connecting letters. Think a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old that's learning to read. And when they're learning to read, when they're learning to speak, every letter is a process. It's an experience. It's something they need to focus on in order to get it right. And so when they speak, they speak. That's real speech. Every tzlil, every sound is alive. Every sound has meaning. It's like I'm creating a team. When I'm creating the team, every member is important. Every member is meaningful. And so in the ancient world, this is how speech was pronounced. Speech was a slow process of giving over a word. It wasn't just boom, tons of stories, tons of words, tons of books. This is us just trampling on it already, not even realizing what it is we're doing, not even taking seriously this avodah, which is the ultimate human avodah. And so when he's davening, he's going back to the ancient mindset. He's going back to having an impact in the spiritual realms, and therefore he's going back to every tzlil, every sound, every syllable has life, has meaning, has importance. Every syllable comes out of the mouth with desire. And then, as he's going into this, as he's becoming the letters that he's saying, he completely forgets the physical realm. He's going into the world of speech, out of the world of the senses, of everything he's seen, everything he's known. He's in a different world now. He's in a world of sounds. He's a world where sounds have meaning and sounds are in charge of reality. That's the world of prayer. And then, as he's connecting the letters, he's realizing that there is a relationship between the letters. The letters, as they come out, they become their own entities. They become angels. And the angels are uniting together to create meaning. So if I'm saying a word, let's say I'm saying the word im. So in the word im, I have the e and the m. It's two separate things that are coming together to create a meaning. So I have two angels that I'm creating, and these angels are going to unite in love and create a word and create meaning. So this is the real process. This is the process. This is how much we have to zoom into the process if we want to get it right. This is how far we've come from this process with all the technology and all the distractions that we can't even focus. We're not capable of doing the work the way that we're supposed to. We really have to practice this until it becomes real to us. But this is the way it really is. It's already real that way. It's just our mind is running on a very fast speed. And our mind is way ahead of itself. It's not realizing what it is doing while it's doing it. So it's losing in the specifics. And therefore, in the spiritual world, losing the specifics means losing the thing completely.
Does it work in English if you practice?
Yeah, it works in any language because it's the spirit that's creating the power. So it's the human spirit that's giving the letters power. And the spirit creates based on intention. So even in English or in any other language, as long as the intention of the spirit is there, this is what creates the power. Lashon Kodesh has its own powers. If someone understands Lashon Kodesh, understands the Chochmah of Lashon Kodesh, of course, that takes him to a whole different level of awareness and consciousness. But for us, when we're just talking, any language that we're talking, the presence of the spirit, that's what's making it powerful. If the spirit speaking it is not present, then there's no power. Nothing is happening. There's no effect. And so this, as he goes into the letters, as he observes the letters, as they're uniting with each other in love, v'zeu tane godel, this becomes a huge pleasure. So he's observing the pleasure of the letters and the forces as they're uniting through him. Because these syllables exist already from Sheshes Yimei Bereishis. These syllables exist in reality before we even receive the mouth. It's not our mouth that's creating syllables. Our mouth was designed to be able to activate syllables. Syllables are entities that create reality. Syllables are the forces that were there in the time of Bereshis, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. Bidvar Shem Shemayim Nasu. The syllables created the worlds. The syllables created us. And so now when we're activating the syllables, it means we're awakening the primal forces of reality. When we're awakening the primal forces, we're creating zivugim. We're creating unifications between the primal forces. The primal forces have extreme pleasure from these zivugim, from these unifications. And it says, "D'mayim begashmis etanig mikoshkim beruchnis." It says, if you want to have a little bit of a taste of what it means to be mezavig, to unite two primal forces and how it feels for them, you can get a little bit of an example if you observe two human beings, a male and a female, uniting with each other. That should give you a little bit of a taste, a little bit of a direction of what it means for two primal forces to interact with each other, to be united with each other. And so when we're giving them this service, we're uniting them in order to create purpose, in order to create the destiny for which they were originally designed. This awakens in them a tremendous tanug, a very deep pleasure. V'zei olam hayetzira, this is called olam hayetzira. So when a person goes into the letters until he's forgotten his body, and then he is participating in the pleasure that the syllables have, that the forces have as they're uniting with each other, then he comes into the olam hayetzira. What's the olam hayetzira? The world of speech and emotion. He's in that world now, assuming that he's forgotten all other worlds. V'achar kach, the next phase, as his attention is going deeper and he's uniting more with the activity that he's doing, Yovei lo'etzes hamachshava. He goes into these letters until he goes to the level of thought. He's beyond tainug already. He's beyond pleasure. He's floating above it. He's floating above everything. He's observing. He's observing the forces colliding with each other. He's observing the unifications that are creating concept. V'lo yishma mashu medaber. When he gets to that place, his mouth continues to talk, but his ears are no longer delivering to his awareness those sounds. He is already in a place above that. The words are just flowing through him. And he is united above the words, above the forces, above the worlds. And this is called the Olam HaBriya. This is called the world of creation. He's in the world of creation. Under him are the syllables, on the forces that created Shemayim V'aretz. Under him, they're uniting and creating unifications. And from there it goes out to the Olam HaAsiyah, which is the world that it's creating in. These are the results that are going to happen because of what he's doing. V'achar kach, after this, after he's already in the world of thought and observing from above, he bol midas ayin, he comes to the midah of nothingness. Nothingness is above everything. Nothingness, from our perspective, we might call it everythingness, because the nothingness means that we no longer look at the details. We are in the core. We are in the essence of things. We are where existence really is. All the other worlds that we're used to, that are not nothingness, are worlds of movement. Like, for example, the physical world. Even every single molecule, in order for it to exist, needs movement. If there's no movement, there's no molecule. The electrons have to keep spinning. Otherwise, it goes back to nothing. And that includes everything else. If there's no movement, if there isn't a movement between generations, then that family stops existing. If there isn't movement within the stars, then that galaxy stops existing. That solar system stops existing. Everything that stops moving stops existing. That's the nature of the existence that we are used to, the physical existence. But the place of ayin is the place of essence. We call it nothingness because there's no movement. What's there? Everything is there. That's the core. That's from where all the movement comes forth. That's the power source. And in that power source is where he ascends to as he goes above the Olam HaBriya. This is called Atzilus. Atzilus is the absolute existence. The absolute existence where the one existing and the way that he exists are one and the same. There's no difference. Unlike the way that we exist usually in our regular perception, we exist, but we exist in a conditional existence. We exist within a body. We exist with certain limitations. We have to get our sleep, we have to get our food. So we don't exist unconditionally, we don't exist fully like in the place of ayin. We exist temporarily, we exist under certain conditions. But in the place of ayin, there's core, there's absolute existence. There's nothing else but existence. There's no change to the existence. That's the place where he goes to after he transcends the Olam Habriya. So, ואחר כך בוא למידס עין, שנזבטל אצלו כל כוחויסov הגשמיים, that not only does he not remember his physical body and all the physical events that are happening around him, at this point he has no physical force. This is why we see by the Nevi'im, even though they didn't get to the Olam Atzilis per se, but when they were trying to perceive it, they would lose their koyach, they would fall down on the ground, and they wouldn't be able to control their body. It's because the awareness, the life force, is so tuned in to its experience, it's so close to the core of the intelligence, that it loses sight of everything beneath it, and it loses power in everything beneath it. It loses interest in everything beneath it. Not only that, the Or HaChaim HaKadosh says that even when the neshama gets to such places, it has a difficult time with the body. It becomes upset with the body, saying, you body, you've been holding me back. You've been covering from me such important things. You're not allowing me to perceive the life force that's giving me life. There starts being a conflict between the spirit and the body by the Nevi'im. That's it's called Hoilulus HaNevi'im, that they would seem like they were going crazy. Because on the one hand, the spirit was still in the body, animating it. On the other hand, part of the spirit was saying, I just want to go. I just want to go home. I want to be with my father and my mother, and I want to be with my truth. And this body is keeping me with the lies. It's keeping me susceptible to all kinds of experiences that are not easy for me, are not comfortable. And this is because this world has been captured by the other side. The other side is the side that is against life, the side that's trying to minimize life, hurt life, the side that's trying to show how life is not good, how life is not worthy. And so the body, because the body has to live in this world, the body is trapped where it has to deal with the other side. The spirit in its essence doesn't want to deal with the other side. The spirit in its essence is everything that's the opposite of the other side. So in this place, the place that Atzilis, it says, Ani Hashem Hishmi, Ichvoidi le'acher lo yaten. It means over there in Atzilis, his name is who he is, and I will not give my glory to anyone else. And who is the anyone else? There's no one else. There can be no one else. So how can it be that he's saying, I will not give my glory to anyone else? To who could you possibly give your glory where it would be anyone else? Isn't it all you? And the answer is that the other, the acher, the someone else, that's the part of humanity that has turned against life. The part of humanity that has turned against its essence, that has turned against what's really supposed to take place here. That part is called acher, it's called someone else. And that someone else will never receive the glory of the divine. It's not possible. It's a contradiction. On someone like that, it says, Ein ani v'hu yicholim loder b'moder echad. I cannot coexist. And surprisingly, what gives this force power, what gives the other side power, is vanity, is gaiva, is holding ourselves more than we are. And so there's a nuance over here, because at the essence of truth, we're so big, we can never conceive our bigness. We can never realize how big we are. And therefore we have an appetite for bigness. We want to be big. Naturally, we feel like we should be big, we should be in charge. We should have everything we want. This is our natural inclination. And this is coming from Kedusha. This is the nature of Kedusha. We were created in order to be pleased. Of course I want everything, give it all to me. But then when it's not available, and then we cannot surrender our desire, that's when gaiva comes in, that's when vanity comes in. Because yes, we deserve everything. But when reality says no, then we have to step back. Because this is the divine will. The divine will has a bigger plan, has a better plan. We are bigger by following the divine than by following the other side. But this is how people get thrown into the other side. This is how people end up going against life, opposing life rather than aligning with life, it's because they created desires, good, so far everything okay. They want it all, so far everything okay. But when they couldn't have it, where did they go? Could they surrender to the bigger will that obviously is causing reality to be a certain way? Therefore, this is the will of the divine at this moment. Can we surrender our idea of bigness, our idea of greatness, our idea of pleasure, our idea of comfort? Can we surrender that while the divine clearly says that it's not available right now? Or then we turn against him? And so if we can't surrender it at the moment of the test, that's when we go to the Sitra Achra. That's when we can end up on the other side, where suddenly we ourselves are becoming a problem for life. Because life made a statement. And we're not willing to surrender to that statement, whatever it might be. And so our real greatness that we so deeply want is within reality. That's the only greatness that we ever need. That's the only greatness we would ever want. Our illusions of greatness might make us turn against that plan. And then we go to the other side, and on that side it says, there is no glory on that other side. They can pretend, they can look cool, they can look glamorous, they can make it look like they have it all, but they don't have it all. There's a big gaping hole at the very core of it. Something is not aligned with the truth. Something is not real. And it's only a matter of time until it shows itself in its true colors. Like you see by Esav, the pasuk says, Navu Matspunov, at the end, his hidden depth starts flowing out. And that's when we see the ugliness of what was inside. And so the whole Sitra Achra is like that. The whole Sitra Achra is just a face. It's a face that says, look, but it could have been so nice like this. But it couldn't have been so nice like this. It never would have been so nice like this. This is just a drawing. This is just imagination. This is not real. There's nothing there. They're not giving you any substance. They're giving you theories and ideas that might make the mind feel a certain way for a limited amount of time. But behind all that, there's nothing to back it up. There's no name. There's no Ani Hashem Hu Shmi. There's no Ani. There's no real self over there that's aligned with truth. And so when a person gets to the level of prayer, where he's completely removed from all his own ideas, all his own desires, everything that's happening outside of him, he floats up into this place of Ayin, of nothingness. And what are the letters Ayin? The letters Ayin are also the letters of Ani. And so in that Ayin is when he gets back to his real selfhood. And when he's really himself, that's when he has the most power over what's going to happen in this world. Because this is the way it was designed. We are supposed to decide what happens in this world. It's just that we get caught up in all kinds of things that cannot be, things that will never happen. And with in those directions, we cannot make progress. But when we come back to the Ayin, and over there we are aligned with the truth, from there we can bring forth everything. There's no limit to what we can bring forth. But only within the parameters of reality, the way that reality was designed to be. Never do we get to fight reality. Moshe Rabbeinu did miracles, but he didn't fight reality. He did miracles because he was so surrendered to reality. And so we have to understand this. When we're in the physical side of things, it might be a contradiction. He changed the rules of reality, he changed the rules of nature, but not because he went against it, but because he was so aligned with it. Yeah, it's like trying to change someone else's mind. You're much more likely to change someone else's mind as their friend than as their enemy. If you align with them, if you find all the places where the both of you have the same thought patterns, both of you have the same ideals, both of you have the same goals, so then it's much easier to change someone's mind than if you're going against them and you're saying, no, but you're wrong, but you shouldn't think this way, but it shouldn't, you should understand what I'm saying. Much less likely to make a change. And so even more so, infinitely more so, when it's reality itself that you're arguing with. So when we come back to a place of Ayin, did we get lost? Not at all. We found ourselves. The real Ani is right there, without any definition, of course. And that's exactly when he is real. All the definitions are additions. All the definitions reside in the lower world, in Bria, in Yetzirah, in Asiyah. In Atzilus, there's no definition. It's just pure him, pure me, pure you, pure life. pure everything. So that's why in this place of ayin is where you can, from where you're going to find resolution. That's why the pasuk says, me'ayin yovayazri, right? Esayin eloharim, me'ayin yovayazri. The same goes for the pasuk that says, hachachma me'ayin timotzei. The wisdom will come from the nothingness. Dafka from the nothingness. If you didn't get to the nothingness, it's not yet wisdom. You're still interpreting things based on the lower worlds. If you go all the way back to the ayin, then you'll find chachma. If you go all the way back to the ayin, me'ayin yovay azri, for sure. Not a question, not a maybe. Absolutely. If you can find your way back to the ayin, you already found resolution to your problems, because the resolution is before the problem. You already had a resolution to all your problems when you were born. Then came the problems. Go back. Go back to before the problems. That's where the truth lies. Problems are confusions. Problems are where I invest identity in things that are not real. Problems are when I try to control things, when I want to have things a certain way, when I get stuck in specific patterns. That's where all the problems are coming from. I go back to a place that's before my problems, and then me'ayin yovay ezri. So this is called olam atzilis, which is called midas hachachma, because these four worlds that we're describing, atzilis, bri, yitzir, asiya, can also be calculated as atzilus is the chachma, which is the yud of the Shem Havaya. Bria is the bina, which is the hey of the Shem Havaya. Yetzira is the midos, chesed, gvur, teferes, netzach, hod, yesod, which is the vav of the Shem Havaya. And asiya is the malchus, which is the hey, the last hey, the hey achroin of the Shem Havaya. And that last hey is the vessel for all the ones above. We can see this in the gematria. Yud is spelled Yud, Vav, and Dalet, which is 20 altogether. Hey is Hey and Aleph, which is 6. That brings us to 26. So Yud, Hey, and already in the first two letters you have the whole name, which is 26. Then you have the Vav, Vav Aleph Vav, which is 13. That brings it to 39. 39 is Begematria Tal, which is dew. And so the Tal comes from the Shemayim, which is the Yud, Hey, Vav. And where does it go into? It goes into the vessel, which is the Hey, the last Hey. That's the vessel that receives. Like the pasuk says, Hey lechem zera izratem es adama. The seed, the human seed, is called the last Hey, the Hey achrein of the name. And in that seed comes in the neshama, the ruach, the nefesh. All the higher spiritual forces are coming into that Hey in order to animate it, in order to bring it to life. And so you see, we see the name, we see the spheres, all in this formula of the worlds. And this formula is also for every individual. Every individual has this formula. Also in our bodies, we see this formula. A simple way of seeing the formula in the body is the head is the Yud, represents the Olam HaAtzilus. The first Hey is the hands. Each hand has the 5 fingers, which represents a Hey. The body in the middle is the Vav. And the second Hey is the toes, which again has the Hey. And in this Hey, we can spell, Hey can be spelled 3 ways. Hey can be spelled Hey Aleph, Hey Yud, or Hey Hey. So here for this remez, we can spell the Heys Hey Hey. In this way we have both hands and both feet in the Hey included. And so in this way we can see the entire Koma. In a more pnimisdige way, it would go to the 4 processes or processors that are within the body that are resulting in every type of activity. The 4 main processes in the body is the moach, which would be the first Yud, the heart, which would be the Hey, the stomach, the liver, would be the Vav, and the sexual organs would be the last Hey. So again, we see how this name is activating and animating the body and causing all types of manifestations. Everything we can possibly manifest comes through these 4 main stations, and all the little organs that are there to serve these main stations. Like, for example, all the organs of the face, the eyes, the ears, the nose, and the mouth, they're all serving directly the brain. The mouth is also serving many other things. The mouth is a very central organ, but it's directly under the rulership of the brain. It's the closest to the heart from all the organs of the face. It's the closest to the heart because the mouth is also very influenced to the heart. The mouth is meant to express the heart, to reveal the heart. And so the emotions are coming through, even though we're speaking concept, which resides in the brain, but we're speaking because of a feeling, because of a desire. And in the voice, in the sound, we can hear the emotions. This is coming from the heart. And then for the heart, for example, we have the lungs. The kidneys are also serving the heart, also serving the brain, also serving the liver. All the kelim that we have, all the organs that we have that help us digest food, all this related to the liver. And all these are servants. All these are organs that are smaller organs that are serving the main organs. And so the main organs are in charge of everything. They're in charge also of the small organs. And the small organs are, first of all, there to serve the bigger organs, but also to help them communicate with each other. And so a lot of these organs are working with a few of the bigger organs in order to create between them, in order to coordinate, in order to make sure that they're all working together. And so all this is to teach us the inner workings of the soul. And therefore we have the body. The reason the body came out into the physical world the way that it did is because we needed to take our map of consciousness with us. Otherwise there would be no returning home. And that's why Pasuk says, Mipsori echze Eloha. So if I ever want to return to my divinity, I have to understand the flesh that I'm residing in. That will teach me the path. That will teach me the road back to where I came from. That's what I brought with me in order to know who I am. And so here again we see how the levels are set up. And now if we want to imagine a person trying to pray, a person trying to have an effect, so we can see how he would have to rise within the levels until he can get to the brain, until he can get to the decision-making power that ultimately says what needs to happen. So if in the collective, if in the bigger reality, I've managed to somehow have an impact on Atzilus, it means that the brain now knows what I want. If the brain now knows what I want, it's going to get it. And this is identical to the process that happens in the individual. So let's say my stomach needs food. So it's going to try to get my attention. It's going to start sending messages, going to send angels to the brain. If I'm distracted, if I'm busy, if I'm in a lot of pain, I might not listen to those angels. It might not get to the brain, and then there will be no change. Nothing will happen. And so the stomach has to send the message, has to send the signal strong enough. The brain has to be ready to receive, and if it comes through, now we have movement. Now there's going to be help. Now something is going to come that's going to solve the issue. And this is all of the signals in the body which are constantly happening. The blood is constantly being adjusted. The movements are being adjusted. The breathing is being adjusted. The brain processes are being adjusted, all based on the messages that are coming up. But what happens if it's clogged? What happens if there's distraction? What happens if there's calamity? Then the brain is not there, the brain is not listening, and all the messages are coming, but there's no response, there's no answer. So when we're praying, we're actually trying to wake up this being. We're trying to wake up something so that it can listen to us. And there's a lot of people making noise. There's a lot of noise. In the collective brain, there is so much noise that it's not simple to actually get a response, to get a result in the place where we are in. And for this, they had great people who were better at sending signals than others in order to make sure that the signal goes in, that the king actually considers what's being said, what's being asked, so that we get a response. And this process, they understood this process. It was something real to them, was something practical to them. It wasn't theoretical. Today, most people will see this type of talk as something that's not practical. You're talking about things that are somewhere else. But this is as practical as it gets. This is our very nature. This is the truth of how we are. That's how practical it is. Our access to it might not be so practical. We need a lot of work. First of all, just in our attention span. Just to be able to stay on the same subject for more than a couple of seconds. Takes a lot of practice today. But this is what's required. We're never going to wake up the brain or the heart if we don't have the time to focus, if we don't have the ability to place our attention fully on one thing and stay there for a little while and feel it and be it and become it and allow it. This is human nature. This is how it was meant to be. And so this process that happens in each individual, happens in the collective. The better we are at this process, the more of a response we're going to get. And the more what we're doing is going to align with that ultimate truth. The more what we're doing is going to awaken the name, is going to raise the name, is going to result in what we said before. Yehei Shmei Rabbu Mevorach L'Olam, that this big name, right? Yizgadal V'Yizkada Shmei Rabbu, we want this big name to become so big that everybody knows that the Spirit is more important than anything that it manifested in. This is only going to happen when we learn how to pray, how to place our attention, how to meditate on one thing, how to stay with one thing, how to wake up the syllables. And this is the process that we are trying to learn. This is the process that we're trying to awaken. This is the process that was known throughout the world. And now we have to remind ourselves. This is a process that people might do every day, and yet they've never really done it. So we should be zoche that we should be able to do it. We should be able to do it properly. We should be able to awaken inside of us, inside of the collective, inside of all of Klal Yisrael, the appropriate desires, the appropriate intentions. And through that, we'll merit the final redemption. May it happen soon.